story of tragedy and opportunity. I did a pilot for a reality show in 2010. The pitch was that we would follow me around every week, and the really interesting people would be the famous people, and we would put their tours together. What does it take to get a tour on the road? What's the tough part about it? And what's the awesome part when it gets together? And so this idea was pitched to me, and I said, okay, we'll give it a try. And we started filming said pilot for a TV show. And because of that, a camera crew followed me around for the month that I'm about to talk to you about. So in case you thought I had a personal cameraman following me around and thought, how are all these pictures? That's why they're here. So all these are screenshots from that show. And we'll start with me arriving at the arena on the morning of May 2nd. This is 2010, by the way. One of the hats I wear is I'm Brad Paisley's creative director. I design his show, and I make sure that all the creative parts of it work for all the things that he does on his tour. As such, during rehearsals, I'm kind of the guy that's in charge of that process. And on the morning of May 2nd, I had a hard time getting to work. I heard as soon as I got there that some of the trucks weren't going to be there, which was very troubling to me. There was apparently rising water. And I thought, we need all this rehearsal time. This is going to be a real problem. That was my concern. Then water started bubbling up through the sewer drain, and I thought, that's weird. Then we captured this really cool image of a wave of water rolling across the arena floor. And we all started to get really weirded out about what was happening. But again, because I had a documentary crew, we were also able to capture this image. This is me, the moment that I'm told that both of my businesses are underwater and that the water's rising. Between Moo TV and Moo Creative, I have about $10 million in equipment inventory. I'm aware when I received this phone call that I have $1 million in flood insurance, and I'm aware that a good chunk of what I own is sitting back there, including the new stuff for Brad Paisley, which, good news, was loaded into a semi. Bad news, the semi's trapped, and it's going under also. This is the moment, and I have the unique ability to go back and review on tape, it's on my phone, one of the worst moments in my life. But these moments, well, interesting things can happen, and I have a history of great things coming out of the worst times. We were ready for Brad's tour. One day later, that's my office, we were in the Cumberland River. We snuck in. It was illegal to go there. The cops were trying to keep everyone out. I snuck in on a boat and got Brad's media drives out of the flood. That was exciting. Water moccasins and electricity still on in the building, and I'm wading through stuff. And it was a rough scene. I was about as down as I could be because I thought my life's work was done. But we kept moving forward. And I can't explain to you in the time we have what we did to survive. Spoiler, we survived. Almost didn't, many times. But with $5 million plus worth of loss and $1 million in flood insurance, we managed to make payroll, barely, for the next 2 years and started climbing out of the hole. But we learned a lot. The first thing I learned is that my team is awesome. In the worst of times, the best people show their best. And I had a lot of the best people. It was awesome to watch how they banded together. And this wasn't something that was going to take a week or two to clean up. This is something that was going to be a major struggle for us for years. And one of people's biggest fears is the fear of not being able to succeed. And our company and our people were set up in a position where we may not be able to succeed for years because we didn't have what we needed, and we were struggling and squeaking by. They banded together, and they were incredible. Our competition showed its colors. One of our competitors did a dance at a show, dancing, "Moo TV is dead, Moo TV is dead." I thank him for that. That went like wildfire through my staff, and they were all like, he said, what? We are not dead. And a couple years after we dug ourselves out, he went away. We won't go into how all that happened, but he's not with us anymore. I didn't have him killed, okay, but, you know. My focus had to be Brad's show. Brad has 9 tractor trailers full of stuff that make this happen, all those video screens, a little washed out. But there's a lot of technology, 9 tractor trailers, more than half of it was gone. And we have 28 days to put a show together. So I had to leave my company to the captains, my companies, because if we can't take care of Brad, then we're not in business. This is what we do. So my focus was on him as the hardest hit and the guy that was about to go out the door. Rehearsals were a nightmare. We tried to not use things that went underwater, but we simply couldn't get pieces and things in time. I was buying used gear left and right and paying more than full price for it. I was shipping things in from all over the world. People were making me cables. But we'd plug stuff in, and we had massive shorts daily, fires daily. Things would just start on fire daily. And these are things that people climb on, and people are 30 feet in the air, and the electricity is arcing across it, and guys are just leaning back in their climbing harnesses going, somebody kill a breaker so I can climb down. Luckily, no one was hurt, but it was a very hard time. Brad lost 9 of his favorite instruments. He was crushed. And he is a super type A guy. It's one of the things I love about him. He demands amazing things out of himself and everyone around him in that order. And he expects everything to be perfect. And in his world, everything's perfect or it's awful. And we were perfect, and a day later, we were beyond awful. And the pressure he put on himself and all of us to get all this together was just, it was hard. But 28 days later, on the show day, I'm standing on stage, and I'm going, what now, what now, what now? My mind had been racing. And it occurred to me that we were ready. And I burst into tears and started sobbing. I quickly got off stage and went and hid, because I'm a grown man and a very tough person, so I'm not sobbing. And I pulled it together, and a little bit later, Brad called a meeting and immediately burst into tears and started crying like a baby. And I was like, okay, I'm in good company. We kept that in the reality show. Management saw it and said, get that out. And Brad said, no, that's what happened. We all went through hell, and we cried, and it was awful, and I want people to see it. So full credit to him. So the tour's good. He's happy. I'll go back to the mess. But a day into that, he calls me and says, hey, I got to see you. I know you're going through hell and you're just getting back to your company, but I got to see you. I got something you need. And we meet, and he says, 2 weeks into this process, I was watching you solve something, and I turned to the person next to me and said, didn't both of Scott's companies go underwater? And I said, yeah. And he said, but Scott's been with me every day, all day since this happened. And the person said, yeah. He said, well, I got to do something for him. And he goes, lucky for you, I get a magazine full of things that no one can afford because I'm on that list. I'm like, all right, this will be interesting. He reaches in his pocket and he hands me this watch that I'm wearing today. He squares off and he says, it's illegal to own a piece of the moon. But these people got permission to get a moon rock to make watches that commemorate the moon landing. If you flip it over, the backside of it is a piece of the Apollo spacecraft. And the webbing on it is a piece of an Apollo spacesuit. For all you did, I want you to have a piece of space, and I want you to have a piece of mankind's greatest achievement. I love you, he says. Holy shit. Pretty wonderful. We ran this ad. I won't read all the ad. It talks about all we went through, but in the end it says, our competition thought we were sunk. But as it turns out, cows are excellent swimmers. Very well received. Got us a lot of attention. Garth and Tricia did flood relief shows. They asked us, are you together enough to do it? Because you're the most appropriate people to do it. We did those shows. We were very proud to donate our services. Started a great relationship. We're really fanned the flame on one with Garth. We now do everything Garth does. Would that have happened if it weren't for the flood? I don't know. We won Video Company of the Year that year. I'm close to done. We won Video Company of the Year that year. And I think the attention we got as the industry watched to see if we were going to survive is the main reason why we got consideration. We've been nominated 7 years in a row. We won that year. We've actually won 8 years in a row now at a big award show in LA. It's cool. I'm very proud of it. There's more. The TV pilot was wildly successful because, shocker, a natural disaster kicks your ass during a reality show, and it's going to be interesting. Every time it got boring with me, we would just show another car floating by, and people tuned in. So, in summary, my team and I, we got our butts kicked, but I came out of it with a much better relationship with an incredible friend, Brad. Garth and I ended up doing all of his business. What a tremendous honor. My team got steeled in a way that I feel resonates to this day, because not for a week or a month, but for 2 years, we just had to give everything we had, and that became the norm. We won Video Company of the Year. I got to be the star of a reality show for a little bit, which was just enough time for me to have strangers walk up to me and go, "How are you, Scott? And how is Brad? Who are you?" You know, 8 years later, I'm really glad and thankful that the flood happened. I never would have thought that could be true. And I own a piece of the moon. Thank you.